What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Viall Files. I am your host, Nick, and we have a very fun episode for you today. I am joined by my dear friend Ginger Zee of Good Morning America and her lovely husband, Ben, to help us answer some questions with our callers today. And I thought it'd be great to have these two because, well, Ginger's always great at sharing her perspective, and we have a nice, successful married couple here who's very open about their relationship, and it's nice to get some perspective from people who are actually, in it and doing it, and not from just a single guy like me. So thanks for joining, guys.
Oh, we're so happy, and we apologize, but this is how we stay together. This is an important part of marriage, by hooking yourselves in the ear.
Armpit to armpit.
Yeah, for those of you guys who are not watching on YouTube, they are sharing a tethered headphone, which actually looks kind of cute. And they've been they've been doing this for the better part of an hour and 15 minutes. So it's pretty great. How are you guys holding up in the quarantine time with the you have two kids, you have each other. Mm-hmm. What is that like?
We have a dog.
Yeah, we just adopted a dog, which was probably a great move because that gives some diversion, right? And but also it's the only time in our lives we could dedicate to an adopted dog that needs some, and a puppy at that, because he's chewing everything.
Are you guys thriving, or has this been stressful? Because you hear a lot of stories about the married with kids is not a fun time during the quarantine.
It's so funny because we talk to our neighbors or our friends, and we keep saying, I think because, especially me, I travel so much that and this spring I was meant to travel every third day. And when that all shut down, it was like one of those strange, surreal moments where it was like, wait, real life is going to be right in front of me. So I didn't really know how it would feel. I knew I'd be really grateful for it. I have still felt a majority of this time and we were sick through much of it. I still have felt pretty awesome. I feel like we are thriving. There's been moments. Yeah.
I mean, it's nothing unusual, I think, aside from you traveling. We're an excruciatingly boring couple. So, and that's not being self-deprecating. It's being honest. Well, we the things we're doing now are the same things we would do if Ginger was home. We would be just, going in the backyard with the kids and going on little bike rides around the cul-de-sac and hanging out with the dog and cleaning the house and cooking and all that other stuff. So it's really not, it's not like, oh man, I would just kill to get on a plane at Turks and Caicos right now. That's not what we do. We're boring.
It's just more, the thing that is different is that we do have individual time when it's not right now, when it's not quarantine. And we haven't had that. And I'd say there have been just moments of but then maybe it's because I've been waiting for something not like this, because I never wanted a pandemic, but I've been waiting for time to dedicate to my family and my home and all of those things for so long that anytime I feel that level of oh gosh, everybody's in the space and I have to figure out how to set up my show, it the gratitude part overtakes me and it blows right through. And we're lucky too that we moved out of the city.
Yeah.
If we still lived in the city and we had a tiny 3-bedroom or 2-bedroom, whatever we were living in, that was equivalent to the home now that we're just outside of New York City, we might be telling a very different story. So I feel very lucky because we've got space.
I'm fortunate that way that I live by myself, because I live in Venice, and I got a place that was based off the premise, I overpaid for location, like you would in, say, New York City, and thinking, well, I'm never really home, so I just want to have a cool location, and I don't need a ton of space. Right now, it's been I could really use more space. Again, thank God I'm by myself, but it is not that big. But it's interesting that you say that, because it is an important time to try to you always say try to make the best of a situation. What can you take advantage in these times, as opposed to being frustrated about the situations we were in. And I kind of thought to myself yesterday, I got a question about what it's like a lot, for the people who are single out there, for the people who are living alone. I actually wonder if they're actually thriving in a way, because I think the initial response sometimes when you are single is to have this feeling of loneliness, right? We're isolated, we're stuck at home by ourselves. But I think even myself, in a lot of ways, my anxiety has been better recently. And I kind of wondered to myself, why is that, right? Because the truth is, are there times where I feel lonely right now? Sure. But there were times that I felt lonely before. But I really noticed what's the difference that I'm not experiencing now that I was before. And that is FOMO. In the sense that when you're single and you are by yourself, there might be a Friday or Saturday night that you are not going out. And the reality is like no one's really having that much fun out there, but especially now with social media and we go on there and you see the appearance of fun, we feel this anxiety about missing out and FOMO. And now like you have this permission to like watch a movie all day and watch 6 movies and not judge yourself and not worrying about like, am I missing out on something? And I got to say, like, I think that's why I've like been doing better in that regard, because like there's no FOMO out there. There's no fear of like, what am I missing out? Because everyone knows what everyone's doing. And I still have the ability to like talk to my friends and FaceTime them and my family and my parents. And so like the loneliness, like honestly, like I've really thought about that, where it's just like a lot of the loneliness I felt before was more in my head, the perception of like, what am I missing out on? Are people like the people who are in relationships and doing things have each other. And while I may not be living with someone, I can still connect the way everyone else is connecting right now via phone call or text or Skype. But I'm never worried about lately about like, what am I missing out on? And I think that's kind of fascinating to think about.
And you know what? I think that's a great point, because you're kind of practiced at being, I mean, you've been in relationships. It's not that you haven't. We know that, but you've been practiced at having that time, something that we wouldn't have had. I don't know that we've been together this much in a row without break.
No, definitely not.
In our marriage.
Yeah.
Because of
tornadoes.
I was chasing tornadoes, so this is brand new for us that way. And I'm happily surprised with how great it's been. But I would say this would be this time, and I've seen the domestic abuse stuff, and because I was in an abusive relationship before, I feel such empathy for the people who are in that situation, who can't get out and there is nowhere to go. But I feel really lucky for so many reasons. We're still working. That also is a big difference. Yeah. A lot of people were laid off, or, there's a lot of places that just lost their jobs. I think we'd be in a really different situation then, because we've both had fears of that going into this, but the fears only stop at, okay, well, at least we still have a paycheck. So I think we haven't even had the pressures with having this time together. There was times between his shows where he was getting worried when he's been between, in entertainment, things end, and then you have to find something new. And those are really stressful times, probably more so for you.
Definitely much more.
Because you were home and you were like, that was horrible.
Well, and like you said, it's there. No one's doing anything right now, so we're all collectively in this holding pattern. So if when you're unemployed and everybody else is working, you freak out because you feel like you're not a part of something. So that's the ultimate FOMO. I mean, that's the professional FOMO, as opposed to like, oh, everyone's going out and having a good time.
Totally. Yeah. But it is kind of interesting that way. I mean, it's scary because like, obviously, like if you, and I agree with you, Ginger, like every day, knock on wood, I've been very thankful that like me professionally, I haven't been impacted, and I know I'm lucky. And I have, I can't even say the same about my parents, and like people very close to me have been impacted, and that is scary. And, so you certainly empathize with that out there, but you're right. It's kind of this weird thing. And even my parents who have had this impacted, it's kind of like, well, we'll just see what we can do. And it's kind of fascinating, and in a way, like trying to make a silver lining about like, it's nice how people are coming together and just trying to see like how we can make the best of a situation, whatever situation we find ourselves in. And, obviously like the domestic abuse stuff is scary. And that's the biggest thing, because it's like, what do you do in those situations? And it's such a challenging time. And you pray for those people to.
But it's also very telling. Like, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I was just thinking we were on an Easter Zoom with his family and some of my family yesterday. And one of his cousins is in Wisconsin. She lives in New York, but she's in Wisconsin right now with her boyfriend. Mm-hmm. And she's just been there the whole time because they've been stuck. So like in their relationship, I think they've been together, a year or two? Yeah. So like, it's got to be really interesting in relationships like that, where it's not new, but you've never been presented with something like this. She's kind of not kidnapped, but she's in a very different place. In someone else's home. I think they're with his parents or something, with his family. And there's gotta be a lot of those situations we don't even know about. So I've been fascinated to look and kind of, try to garner some, it's not entertainment, that sounds so bad, but some, how the world is working relationship wise. And I just keep feeling very lucky. And I keep going back to, now, if you were to talk to us 3 months from now, if this still has to keep going, which we really, are hoping that it doesn't, maybe it wouldn't feel as bright and shiny. And when we're done with Ozark.
I don't know. I'm pretty easy to be with.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, I think it's just trying to adjust and adapt and like mix it up a little bit, and hopefully, like maybe Ozark season 4 comes out sooner than expected.
Oh my God, they gotta rush.
He did say no. Ben said because he's creative and he is romantic this way. He said yesterday, "Why don't we get the tires on our bikes blown up and we can go on a bike date?"
Yeah,
isn't that romantic? Doesn't that scream romance right there? That is.
I think that's great. Just something. We do get, I mean, listen, I'm a creature of habit. So like there's so many things I do over and over, and you just get comfortable with doing it a certain way. And as soon as like either with yourself or someone close to you encourages you just to do something slightly different, even if like, it's not that drastic to like fill up the tires on a bike, but like if you don't have a reason to do it, sometimes you just never do it. And it's just a nice change of pace if you're able to try to mix it up and just, you know, I always get questions about spicing it up or mixing it up. Well, now, great time to just, you know, say screw it and try something different.
The amount of creativity that comes out of humankind in this situation, of mankind in this situation, is extraordinary too. Especially you can see it with social media. I mean, people are doing wild things online, because they have no resources, and that's when the real brilliance comes to fruition.
My quarantine content has been thriving. It's just
people are on and they're watching and they want something to divert their attention a little bit. So you know, the dancing and the guys DJing, D Nice is DJing and all this other stuff. I mean, that stuff is when you're like, okay, there are people out there and they're doing extraordinary things with so little.
And so we can do that with ourselves. And I guess that would be the marriage advice too. And we can even take our own advice in doing that, is keep thinking of the bike rides, keep thinking of the ways, because no matter how long this keeps going, you have to keep it fresh for yourselves and not just sexually or whatever way. It's more like in your lives, because, you know, we basically go outside to the backyard every same time every day and do the same, you know, with the kids. And that's the thing, is they love routine too. And so we are also major creatures of habit, but after a while, we're going to have to shake it up a little. And I would think that, like, I don't know. I was thinking in the shower this morning, how am I going to go back to the travel? Is this going to change how I feel going forward? And I think it might. I think it might have been the experiment or the experience that I needed to tell me what no looks like, because I am the constant yes person, and I'm the one that's always running so hard that I'm missing all this stuff. And now, just like the cliche of people are like, your kids are so young for only some time, and I'm like, wow, I got smacked in the face with it, and now we'll see what happens as we go forward.
You're gonna cry when you leave next. Guarantee it.
Oh yeah.
I had to commute every week for my last job, and I was a blubbering mess on the plane. I had to go take a plane every Monday morning, come back every Thursday night, and I was a disaster.
Yeah.
You're gonna it'll be interesting how the world reassesses priorities, you know, as a result of how we've adjusted, and it definitely will have an impact. Yeah.
How my job is going forward. Like, I think about that too. What means what? I was already kind of questioning that, and this puts it all into some weird perspective, because I have more fear, because I wonder, will my job, you know, be the same when I renegotiate a contract? Will this whole, you know, epic crush of an economy impact that so much so that I'll have different choices to make? So those are individually going on. The one thing I would say is, like, advice too for people is just expressing that, because that helps. Sometimes we forget to just say it, say it out loud. And I'm lucky that I have a partner who's the best communicator. I mean, he's made me a much better communicator. I was the worst.
Silently. I would say the one thing though, how that has gotten us through this craziness is that we do in fact have an awesome diffuser in our bathroom.
Stop. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Oh, I thought you were making fun of my poop right there.
Oh, no. Not on. That's behind the camera. Yeah. Your diffusers, Nick, are amazing. I'm not advertising for you right now. This is not a thing, but they're.
He does love it.
I love diffusers, and I never find good ones. And this is the one the only one I like.
There's your natural break, by the way.
That's awesome, man.
Thank you for the plug, Ben. I really appreciate it.
I love it. They're amazing.
On that note, let's. What do you say we get to these calls? And definitely appreciate you guys helping out. Don't forget to send your questions at asknick@castmedia.com. And without further ado, ask Nick. Theragun. I gotta tell you, I've been using my Theragun more often recently because I'm just sitting around, and I feel like it's getting my muscles, going. I'm working out a little bit, not as much as I used to. I feel like with staying at home, and the Theragun is really helping me have my muscles stay active. At least I feel like they are. Either way, it's helping me sleep better, I've noticed.
Yeah, I'm like holding so much stress in my body that I've been using the Theragun every day because I feel like, just got to release all that tension that's building.
I use it in my neck most of the time, yeah, for the
Me
same
too.
reason. I grind my teeth a lot, and when I have stress, I have it in my jaw, and I usually always like use it on my neck. Like I'm just doing this constantly.
Yes.
Oh,
there he goes.
Just like, Anyways, and I do it right before bed, and it's fantastic. Feel better naturally, treat your pain, and get back to your life. Try Theragun risk-free for 30 days or your money back by going to Theragun.com/VIALL. And that's confidence right there because they know you're going to love it. Like once you get the Theragun, you just become addicted to it. It's fantastic. For a limited time, my listeners to this podcast get $150 off your device. That is incredible savings. That's Theragun.com/VIALL. Theragun.com/VIALL. It can be hard to know how to reach your financial goals, even in the best of times. Betterment is here to help you reach those goals and make the most of your money. From the cash you save for tomorrow to the money you invest for retirement. How? Well, investing involves risk. Betterment is designed to take care of the hard stuff and help you do what's right with your money. First, they'll ask you some questions about what you've been saving for, then build a portfolio based on your needs. Then they'll provide ongoing expert guidance in the app itself to help you make smart decisions with your money. They can even give you advice on accounts you don't have with Betterment. They'll help you stay on track for your goals with tax-saving features and easy-to-use tools like automatic deposits. And you'll get everything for one of the lowest fees in the industry. Since 2010, Betterment has helped over 500,000 people manage more than $18 billion of their money. Download Betterment app from Google Play or the App Store to get started today.
Question time with Nick. Let's ask Nick your sexy questions.
How's it going?
Hi, it's going good. I'm Carly. I'm 24. How
Hi,
are you
Carly,
doing today?
24. Good. How can
Hi.
we help?
Well, my life is pretty good right now.
Great.
And I know. And I think I'm basically trying to figure out if I should propose to my partner during quarantine, if that's if that's a good move. So I've been with this person for the last 2 years, a little more. Um, and we have a really happy, healthy relationship. We've talked about getting married. I've been the one I'm younger and I'm a little more wary of marriage in general. And so I've been the one that's kind of has been, no, what the hell, we're not doing that. But I just feel like I'm shifting and, we're quarantining together and it's been really sweet. It hasn't been hard, thankfully. I say that lightly. I know a lot of people are struggling. And yeah, I think that I know that I want to, and I think what's the tension for me is everything to do with other people's reactions in my life.
Sure. Tell me a little bit about your relationship, about your partner.
So they're 30. We live in a small town together. But we're both from cities. We love to just hang out and be together. We're kind of homebodies. We love to cook. We love to talk about our feelings.
Well, that's great. Now I have to ask, because you suggested that you want to propose, and traditionally, men propose. Is this are you dating a man? Are you dating a woman? Like, what's the reason you're thinking about proposing?
I think the reason I'm thinking about proposing is because of our dynamic of it would just be sweeter to come from me, to come from the person who has been hesitant. I'm dating someone who's gender fluid, but so uses all pronouns. But when I met this person, like they were very much male presenting and using he, and I think we still do have a lot of some dynamics of like a straight couple. And so yeah, I would be like the more classic woman, I guess you would say.
Okay.
But I just want to, and what the hell? It's 2020, right?
Yeah, I mean, so I guess I'm curious is like, what are your reservations? I mean, because like the quick answer is like, well, if you want to, go for it, you know?
Thanks. I mean, I think I just feel, I feel, I know a lot of people get married young. I'm from Boston. It's a little less that way. 24 is considered pretty young in my family. I also think I wish that I was a little more integrated into my partner's family and friends. Like this feels like I wouldn't want this to put pressure on those relationships. I want them to continue to just develop in a like and at their own time and without like any stress. I guess particularly my partner's mom. She's a really cool person and she's a little hard to get to know, and I've been kind of going back and forth also on like if I should ask for her blessing, like what would like what is this?
Can I ask a quick question, Carly? So do you think that had the coronavirus and quarantine and stay-at-home orders not happened, would you have felt this way? Because I think, you might be feeling different because you've been isolated from the world and you haven't had the pressures, you haven't had those. Would you have felt this way? Could you hold on and hold out until midsummer and say, oh, okay, we've all been back in the life and I've started to get, these reservations out of the way. Could you wait?
Great question.
Totally. I mean, yeah, I could wait, right? Like, I think I also, though, like, I've been feeling, I think what quarantine has made me realize is, like, I actually have been ready. And exactly what you're saying, like, I don't have these pressures. I don't have everybody's, like, gaze on me quite as clearly. And I'm just able to see that this is so clearly what I want. And so I'm, for the first time, having this feeling of, like, but why wait? But yes, I could wait,
Yeah. So I think that's the question to ask yourself is, how much of that is because you don't have those around? And that's wonderful that you feel this way. And I agree with Nick. If you feel it, there's no reason why you shouldn't. I just think that we're in a very strange time right now. And I would say, and Ben knows all of this and most of the world has access to it because I wrote a book, but one of my best friends in life, that I met through a TV station I worked at, he became my best friend and then boyfriend, but he was gay. And then we fell in love with each other as people. And I think, and I'm trying to put myself, and I was 24, so that's why I'm putting myself in your position. I still think he's still one of my best friends. Ben and him are best friends, my husband. I think that we would have potentially, without all of the pressures, gotten even closer to solidifying our relationship into marriage, which is something that we had both talked about forever. I don't think that it would have been great for us because of other reasons.
If you were quarantined, you're saying.
I'm not saying if we were quarantined, because I don't know that, because I have no idea. But I'm just saying it may have taken away. I'm thinking of some of those things, that he was gay, which was a huge one. It would be like, and then we fell in love with each other, and it was confusing, except for to us. It wasn't confusing to us because we loved each other. And so I'm trying to I actually at the exact same age. So I'm trying to say, if we hadn't had that, would we have gotten closer, and would that have been beneficial going forward? I can't say yes or no, except that now I know that I found, and Brad would say this too, I found him the way that I needed him in my life going forward. So anyway, I would ask yourself those questions, and I would think that time is on your side. You can keep saying, and you can, what might help too is just start expressing that and say, like, this has been a really good time for me, and I feel like I'm getting even closer to feeling like that. Maybe that gets some of it off, and you guys can start talking about the reality of it happening.
I would enjoy yourself. I think this is a time that, divorce rates are skyrocketing right now because people can't stand to be with each other. You have the complete opposite, where you have the luxury of actually enjoying your partner very much, which is extraordinary, and it's telling of your relationship how strong it is.
But I would. There's no need to rush. There's no deadline here. I would just enjoy this, embrace it, live in the moment as much as you possibly can. I mean, no, it's impossible to do that. Everyone always says it, and I think it's such BS. But try to live in the moment and try to just enjoy this time together, where it's so focused, so concentrated. And like Ginger said, learn about each other as much as this is the moment where you can truly learn about your partner to the fullest extent, because there's nothing else to get in the way of it, to distract you. So I would say just really enjoy this time. And I hate 24, you said, right? You're 24. Yeah. I hate saying 24 is young. I hate being condescending like that. I don't want to be that person. But you do have time. There's no reason to rush, and just embrace this.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with what Ginger and Ben are saying, and kind of like what Ben said, like not to dismiss in any way your relationship. And I think what Ginger was alluding to is that there is no doubt that in stressful times or just weird times, we have a way of responding to that, right? And for example, like I'm assuming you've seen The Bachelor or the show, but part of the way that process works is because it's such an intense environment, right? And that it doesn't make the feelings that people feel disingenuous. What it does is it heightens them, right? And so we have these, feelings in these kind of times to, again, I don't in any way doubt that you're convincing yourself of your feelings. It's just you have a singular focus right now, and that's kind of maximizing your feelings. And to Ginger and Ben's point, I think that's a great thing. It might make sense to just enjoy that, how you feel right now, because the truth is, if you guys truly are ready to get married and be engaged, then that's a lifetime by definition. At least I'm assuming you hope it is, right? Which means that nothing's going to go anywhere, right? So like you might as well enjoy this moment and then wait to maybe more normal times to really get some clarity, because it is hard to see things truly as they are when you're living in a reality that's not typical or normal. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. That's very interesting to compare it to The Bachelor. I see what you mean.
Well, I know the easy thing in these times is to let yourself go, but I gotta say, I actually make it a point every day to do the things I do grooming-wise. Trim my beard, moisturize my face. I even fix my hair, even though I'm not going anywhere, and even though I don't have a ton of it right now. I'm just like trying to maintain a level of sanity. And so while I don't wax my body, I do have a lot of female friends who would regularly go to, I don't know where you even go to get waxed, but they would go to these places to get waxed, and now harder to do. And the good news is Flamingo allows you to do the waxing yourself at the comfort and safety of your home.
Yeah, I use their head to toe wax kit. I love it. And it just makes me feel so clean, so fresh. And also I feel a little awkward going places to get wax. It's like very intimate. So it's nice to just be able to do it from home.
I can only imagine. Yeah. Just leave it at that. Anyways, try the Flamingo head to toe wax kit today at shopflamingo.com/VIALL. You get 20 face wax strips, 24 body wax strips, post-wax claws, and calming aloe vera serum for just $19. And it ships free. See why Refinery29 calls it the only at-home wax strips they've not hated. Get yours today for just $19 plus free shipping at shopflamingo.com/VIALL. I mean, I just kind of think back and it's great that Ginger has such a very specific comparison. I don't have that, but like I look back at my parts of my life where I was just going through stressful times, and I started convincing myself of things that I was ready for or kind of was ready to rush. And again, like I'm not suggesting in any way that you're rushing it, but it's you want to be careful about making life commitments in times where things are not typical, or normal. It might be a little bit more stressful and things like that. So like to Ben's point, like express those feelings, put it out there, like don't make it a secret, maybe share it with the family and stuff like that. Address the concerns that you do have, the things that you're not uncertain about your feelings towards your partner, but you are nervous about the response your family might have. Maybe this is a time to kind of warm them up to the idea,
I did do that. I spoke with my parents. I told them I was thinking of this, and they were happy for me. I think the concern is more, my partner's mom and all.
Yeah.
But I will say, when you know, you know. When it's there, when it's something, but that comes with experience, and that comes with life experiences, and you get to that point where you do make mistakes and you realize this is it, and you have that feeling in your stomach, this is it. Because the worst thing I hate, when we got married, everyone's always like, you're nervous? Are you nervous? I'm like, no. Why are people nervous before they get married? This is awesome. It's like another day. It's just some, you shouldn't be nervous. You shouldn't be freaking out. You shouldn't be thinking about cold feet or anything like that. You should be 100% sure.
I agree. And I do feel that. Like I really do feel not confused about the actual question of this person, right? Like I've loved a lot of people. I'm young, but I've had a lot of relationships, and I've learned a lot, and I've seen a lot not work, and this is radically different. Like this is just never, but I also do think that in some ways I'm putting a little pressure on myself in this moment, because I'm like, when are we going to have this much time again to just celebrate an engagement? Like, I'm not working 40 hours a week for the first time in a long time, like, which I know sounds like kind of weird and practical, but like we're busy people, and it would be nice to just get engaged and get to like goof off for 2 weeks together.
Yeah, but that will be always there. I don't I appreciate that. I don't think that's a reason to rush an engagement, But
it's not rushed. Like it's something that it's something that I wanted before quarantine. It's just not something I gave myself permission to think about doing.
I mean, here's the other thing that you could do. And this is just now me being like hopelessly romantic, and because I did end an engagement.
Not ours.
A different one.
Different engagement.
I mean, an engagement isn't marriage. It is serious. If you're talking it out and you're like, listen, we want to have this time. And I agree, first and foremost, with both Ben and Nick, you don't have to rush into it. But if you really feel strongly and you really want to do this, talk about what that means. And would the repercussions of ending an engagement be worse than breaking up someday? You know what I'm saying? So that you could at least, because an engagement can be for 2 years, who knows that. And I did, I ended it 3 weeks before the marriage. And so that was too late. I would not suggest that just for like down payments alone. But I think that it's really helpful to, if you talked it out and you both know, it's like a prenuptial engagement.
Don't talk it out.
I'm just kidding.
No, don't talk it out.
Don't talk out like that part. But I'm saying, like, if she really feels strongly and she wants to get engaged, and she's like, at the end of this, she does like, I don't care what you guys say about time. You can do it, and just know that it does. It's not forever.
I wouldn't talk it out. Because then that ruins the whole romance and the surprise of it all. If you're going to do this during quarantine and you want to do it, you want to do it right. You talk it out. It's like buying the ring with the person. It's like
true.
It takes out all the romance. If you are sure, if this is something you feel, you're an adult. If this is something you feel, and you have that, and you're sure about it, then I say go for it. I mean,
we're totally changing everything we're saying.
I know. I say go for it. I mean, it's sad because
you're convincing us.
No, it's the more we talk to you, you're a rational person. You said it. You were with them for 2 years. That 2 years, we were together for 6 months before I proposed to her. So you obviously know this person that you're with, and you love them very much. I think, if it's something that you truly feel, I say do it. And make creative. Do it in like a face mask or something.
If you need to.
I do have one question, Carly. Just like you mentioned that your partner is gender fluid, and it sounds like there was kind of a progression, kind of with this person's identity. Do you think that they're still going through that right now, and kind of are they still kind of learning about themselves and kind of becoming more comfortable in themselves, or do you feel like they've kind of settled into who they are?
I think it's a constant evolution for a lot of us. So I think very much both. Like, I think they're very comfortable in their body and who they are, and I think who knows 10 years from now how they might want to present and how they might feel, and I feel really comfortable with any direction that could go.
Even if that direction's without you, though.
Yeah, that's the only thing I want to point out too. Is just like, that's amazing that you're comfortable with it, but that could be as they evolve, and they and they get to know themselves better. That might change the things that they want in their life. That's just kind of a reality. So that's just something to be mindful of. And I don't know this person or your relationship, but if they are, I would say this to anyone, regardless if it has to do with like how they are, identifying with their gender. I would say this to someone who has that all figured out, but is still like maybe learning about themselves, or maybe their like relationship with their childhood or whatever. Like as a person kind of becomes more comfortable with their skin, in their skin, their desires and wants can change. And that's something to be mindful of.
Yeah, I don't know how that's different from like getting engaged to anyone ever, right?
It's not. You're right. Right. My point is, it's kind of like, you're absolutely right. And what I'm saying is, whether you get engaged to anyone, you want to make sure that they seem to be pretty comfortable with who they are as a person. You're right. We're always changing. We're always evolving. Right. And as a married couple, you're growing together. I'm sure Ben and Ginger, to a certain degree, can like think about how they're different as a couple now than when they got married. But you just want to make sure that's one person is not maybe still discovering themselves more than the other, right? There should be like a strong baseline there, is all I'm saying. And again, maybe that person is there. So just, is that kind of evolution for them, something that they will let you grow with them, is kind of the big question.
Honestly, I think if anyone's still evolving, it's me, like, yeah, which I think is why it's like very much ball in my court to be the one to say, okay, I do want to commit in this really powerful way. Because yes, like they're older, they're pretty seasoned. They're an earth sign, very grounded. They're not going anywhere.
Well, then I kind of with Ben, I say, go for it if it feels right, but just, like maybe, we'll see how like maybe right after quarantine, like set yourself up, for it. But like, I think if that's where your heart is, then, as far as overall, go for it.
You're getting engaged. That's exciting.
Yeah. I just wanted a little validation. I really like your podcast, Nick. I really appreciate your thoughts.
Well, I appreciate you listening, and it's always fun to hear people's relationships and different people's perspectives, and we really appreciate you sharing.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful
right.
day.
All right. Well, early congratulations, and give us an update.
Yeah.
Please do.
Thank you so much. I will. Bye now. Great to meet you all.
You too.
Thank you.
You too. I feel kind of bad because we totally flip-flopped like 1,000,000%.
No, I think that's the way conversations go, though. We're not,
Yeah, but I felt convinced by the end.
Right, totally. No, I think that she seemed completely of sound mind, and I hate saying it again, but you talk to a 24-year-old, you're like, what does a 24-year-old have as far as experience is concerned? But she seems like she's very mature.
Yeah, and I will say that me ending my engagement, if that were the way it was going to go, made me a much stronger relationship person eventually.
Yeah.
So, and a lot less, and I don't think she's flip about it, but I definitely was more flip when I first got engaged.
Yeah, she seems pretty sure of herself.
She does. And I wasn't. And I think that's where the big difference is. I couldn't have made a call like this and been like, I can't wait to marry this person. I would have never said that, not once in that relationship. I was okay.
I agree with Brendan. It's kind of an evolution in a conversation, but I think sometimes it's one of those kind of what's the takeaways of the call is like, be careful when you're making big decisions under stressful situations, but it doesn't mean you're wrong about those decisions, and you just kind of think it through. And the truth is we don't have the answer, right? Like things could work out with Carly and her partner, and it could change. I mean, it's one of those things. That's why you get engaged and maybe have an engagement. So,
and that's what I was saying. Engagements can end. It sounded so bad, but I don't mean
I mean, you don't have to tell me twice,
Yeah.
I just worry because people see marriage as no big deal. And then they get married. I know but they do. They see it like I remember talking to somebody like, we should just get married. Like talking about another guy she was with. And I was like, no, don't just get married this is a serious deal. And marriage is a serious deal. I mean, once the wedding is over and all the real issues come to fruition, then that's when the work begins. And it's work. It's constant work. I mean, it's exercise, man. And people think that marriage is just like, it's sweet. It sounds great, but it's really difficult. It's not something to mess around with. It's like having kids.
Yeah.
Same thing.
How's it going?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. What's your name?
Rebecca, and I'm 24.
Hi, Rebecca, 24. How can we help?
Okay, so I've been with my person for 6 years, and we just got married 3 months ago in January. We got legally married because he's a Marine, and so we wanted to. He proposed in December, but we got married quickly after that just so we could get the benefits, move in together legally, and all of that. And we were in the process of planning our wedding for next year. While he was gone last year, he was in Virginia, doing like courses over there for the Marine Corps for a good couple months. And things were pretty rocky. It was hard to communicate with each other. He just was so busy all the time. It was a hard time. I didn't feel like I was getting enough from him. There was always one girl I was kind of skeptical about. He was going clubbing a lot at that time with his friends, which I didn't mind. Like, that was his time to have fun. But I would see him like following girls on Instagram from Virginia Beach that are not Marines. So obviously he's meeting girls out. And then there was a charge on his Venmo, an Uber charge, that he sent a girl money for. So I questioned that, and he says like that it was for his friend, that he slept over the night with this girl and didn't have his wallet, so he sent her money, whatever. I never had anything else to go off of, so I just said okay. But it's always been in the back of my mind. And recently, for whatever reason, I just decided to kind of dig into it. And so I messaged the girl and I asked her if she hooked up with the friend. She said, no, I don't even know who that is. So I said, okay, then was it my husband? And she said, yeah, it was. Multiple times that they were hooking up, and it was up to even recently, a couple months ago, that he was still reaching out to her, planning to see each other again, like offering to fly her out.
Did she know you existed?
No, apparently not.
Okay.
So this is kind of where I'm at now, and I guess my first thought was like, okay, I don't want to be with this person. I want to get a divorce.
Okay.
So I talked to him about it. At first, he denied it, and he said no, like, I don't know what you're talking about. And I said, okay, well, with the little respect that you have for me, let me know when you're ready to admit it, and we'll talk. So we didn't talk for a couple days, and then he called me and he said, okay, this is really hard to admit this, but yeah, this is what happened. I went out with my friends. I got really drunk. I went home with her, and then a couple weeks later, it happened again. And he said, I wanted to talk to you about it. Before we got married, he asked me, like, do you kind of want to sit down and have an honest talk with each other to kind of admit some stuff? And I did say no, because I just kind of thought, like, I didn't have anything to say, and I was like, whatever you have to say, I don't want to know. So I told him no. He said this is kind of what he wanted to talk to me about, but he was scared because he knew that I would leave him, that's not something I'm willing to accept, really. So we talked, and he admitted it, and he just said he doesn't want a divorce, but he'll sign the papers if I want to. So then my thought process was, okay, I'm gonna be divorced at 24. Like, now what do I do from here? So I guess that's my question.
Okay. So if you were to make a list on like reasons why you'd want to get divorced or reasons why you'd want to stay married, what would be like on that quick list? Because it sounds like yeah, go ahead.
The reasons to get divorced is just, I guess, trust is the biggest thing now. Okay. And especially because this wasn't something that like happened and he got rid of it. Like, he still followed the girl on Instagram. That's how I knew. Like, if he wanted, I told him, if you wanted to get rid of this, you could have hid the charge. You could have not followed her. I would have never found out. And he was like, yeah, but I feel like he maybe wanted me to, in a way, because he still left it there. Like, he wasn't very smart about it.
Was trust always an issue with you guys? Since you were looking at who he's following on Instagram, you're looking at Venmo stuff. Unless you have joint accounts, was this always an issue with you guys?
I think it was just something, because he'll like send me money for lunch sometimes, and I think it was just something like that I saw on the Venmo. We have a really good relationship, and our communication, surprisingly, is actually really well.
That's seeing who he's like following new girls on Instagram and seeing that he's following new girls.
And
on
I would
Instagram.
never know. Like, you even know Instagram better than I would never know if you followed somebody on Instagram, which is really bad.
That's the thing. Like on Venmo, like it's the default is to like have it be public who you're sending and receiving money to, you know. And so he probably didn't think about it. And so you went on and you obviously have sent each other money. So like you saw that he sent this person money. Like that's.
Yeah. Oh, it had like, because you have to put a message in the middle of it. That's right. But see, with Venmo, like when we pay a babysitter, whatever, I always put private, even for that, because I don't like that. I don't like that being out there.
I don't know
anyway.
why is it even an option?
I don't know why. That's a great question. This is a whole like, why does Venmo do that? I don't know. I don't understand why they're trying
for
to
this
make
reason,
a social media app. But yeah, like it makes sense that he just got sloppy and forgot and didn't realize it. I mean, listen, I think the important thing here is I just want to emphasize with what you said with regards to your fear, and your fear being if you were to decide to get divorced, where do I go from here as a 24-year-old? What does this say about me? It doesn't say anything about you. All the fears that you have about what people might think or what you'll think of yourself, you will definitely get over, and it feels infinitely worse in your head right now than it ever will be in reality. That's just a fact. I have no doubt in saying that. Like, people are getting divorced all the time, especially young people who decide to get married, realize pretty quickly that maybe they shouldn't. And I'm not telling you should get divorced, but I think having trust and security and feeling like your partner respects you is far more important than like what your neighbor might think of you. And so like they won't.
Or who the next person that you might meet, the same thing. That they're not going, they won't care. I mean, had I been divorced instead of broken engagement, you wouldn't have cared. And
I would have cared.
No, you wouldn't have. You would not have cared.
Would not have been an issue.
I'm just saying it wouldn't. Most people, that's not the deal breaker. Or if that is a big concern of yours, nobody's even going to bat an eye. Like, okay, so that happened.
They really won't. They really won't. I agree. Like all those things that we judge ourselves harder way more than other people judge us. And the only time I personally think that becomes an issue for other people is when we project our insecurities so much that it becomes something other people care about. You know, it's kind of one of those things, like if you go on a date with someone and, you know, it's like people like to know that you think they're great, but like there's a balance between, you don't want to go on a date and be like, why are you on a date with me? Like, I don't deserve you, you know, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, why are you here? Like at one point, like it's flattering for like a split second, and then the other person starts wondering, like, why am I on a date with you? Like I don't get it. Yeah. So like that's the only time that really becomes an issue is like if you wear this on your sleeve and you start like wearing it, like you start acting like you're damaged goods, like because you really won't be. And like
no,
it's a tale as old as time. Is like especially if, you know, people in your situation, like. We got married. We loved each other as a real relationship, but the marriage itself was a bit rushed because of like the situation we found ourselves in. You know, he was serving in the military. We wanted to get benefits that we couldn't get as a couple that was just engaged. And so we did this, right? Because like the only difference between like, what is really the difference? Like, let's say you guys didn't, for whatever reason, need to like get benefits or like any financial security through getting married. You would have like waited. You'd still be engaged right now, and you would have found this out as an engaged couple. And in your head, it would seem different. So like, what this is really, those fears are really all in your head. And so,
but I think at the same time, like when you said it and when you were telling us your story, my heart hurt. I don't know. So like my heart, and it's not me being hurt. So I think that emotion, you know, doesn't end quickly necessarily. I think you can work through everything. I think therapy is incredible. And if this person is worth it, I think that would probably be necessary. But my initial feeling was like this, like, oh, I felt horrible for you. And whether you were married or just you had still been dating for 6 years, doesn't matter. And so once that part is, you're able to clear from that, I think then you really have to think about is this person something I want to work hard for? And do they want to work hard for me? When he said, oh, I'll sign the papers if you want to. Was that just like an offer? That seemed very,
yeah,
very quick. I don't know.
I think he knew, like we've talked about it before. Like I told him, I'm not afraid to be divorced. Like it would suck, but I'm not gonna put myself in a relationship I don't want to be in. So he kind of knew already that like, okay, this is what she's gonna want. So he just said, he told me, this is not something that I want. I know I want to make it work, but it's like, I'm not going to hold you back from this.
But I agree. I mean, there's something there in his response, and I know we're hearing it third party from you, but that just, to me, it sounds like he's just putting it out there that he doesn't want to get divorced, but like if you want to, it's almost like it's, and I don't know if this is the situation because I wasn't there in the room when you guys were having this conversation, right? But sometimes people say things just to be able to say like, well, I didn't want to get divorced, you know, but like, is he really fighting? Is he really doing everything he can to like show his contrition, to show his like sincerity and how he understands that like this was an actual mistake and he's not just sorry because he got caught? Like there's a lot of red flags here that suggest that like, this is not just a mistake. He just is sorry he got caught. And the only difference between that is like his like sloppiness on Venmo. Right? That's a concern, right? Like, listen, people are human. People make mistakes. We all have moments of weakness, you know, like there are situations that we can be devastating to us that we can overcome, but like everything is situational. And like this just has a lot of red flags around like how it went down, why he's sorry or why he's saying he's sorry. And like, well, I don't want to get divorced, but like if you want me to sign the paper is not the type of response I would expect from someone who truly will do anything to make this work. And, you know, again, this is based on what I'm hearing from you, but yeah, unless you're like leaving out information, it sounds like there's just a lot of red flags here. And I would expect, like Ginger said, for him to want to do everything. Like he's be the one like, I want to get therapy. Maybe I want to go get help. I want to understand why like he should just be like bringing you a list of things, not as like, hey, well, just let me know if you want to stay together or not, you know, like.
It sounds like you substitute a lot of your needs for this person as well. And that's unfortunate. Do you have a lot of friends that are married? There's a lot of your friends married?
No, I don't have like a.
That's good.
Being together for 6 years, it was kind of just us.
That's good because that would be a lot more pressure, I think, would be added pressure. If your friends were all married and then, oh, what am I going to do? I'm the only single girl in my group of friends, but you're lucky you don't have that. I think since you did substitute so much of yourself for this guy in these circumstances, I think now is a time for you to be selfish. And I think it's a time for you to really take care of yourself and have tunnel vision. Don't worry about anybody else. No one else matters. Their opinions don't matter. Nothing matters except for your strength, your independence, and your happiness. And that's something that you deserve that. You should focus on that right now.
I totally agree. I think that's great. And then any fears you have about like, oh, well, I've committed so much energy to this relationship with this person. He was my best friend. And I don't really have a circle of friends. You are definitely young enough to like make a ton of friends. I have a lot of friends from high school, and I have so many more friends that I have met in my late 20s and early 30s. So like, it's never too late to make great friends. And sometimes it's the situations that and heartache that we experience that makes us relatable to people. You're going to connect with someone who's been in this situation. You're definitely not alone, right? So like, put that energy out there to like create new relationships, and not just like with another guy, you know, like it might be a great time, like Ben said, to be selfish and like focus on developing friendships. And then maybe if you do leave this relationship, be mindful in your next romantic relationship, not to like drop everything else. We've all done that, right? I've done that like early in life where it's just like you have this group of friends and then you fall off the map. And like a year later when it doesn't go well, you're like, guys, hey, can we be friends again? Sorry. You know, like I've done that. Like I've had friends who've done that to me. We've all done this, right? But it's just it's something to learn in the future. So, all right. Well, best of luck. Hopefully this was helpful. Yeah, you're going to be okay. I just don't be, you know, I think that the biggest takeaway is this: don't scare yourself into following your heart and following your gut. Like, if you want to leave this relationship, really trust your gut. Like so far, I think what's really good is that your gut hasn't steered you wrong. Like even when your gut told you something was going wrong, like, and don't let your fears of the unknown stop you from following your gut. Because it did once when he asked you, like, do you want to know? And you're like, I'm too afraid to find out, but that's a good lesson to trust your gut and just not be afraid of the unknown.
Yes, definitely. For sure. Okay. Yeah, this was really encouraging. So thank you so much.
You're going to be okay. I promise.
You'll be great.
You will.
You'll be great.
All right. Take care.
All right, guys. Have a great day.
You too.
You
Bye-bye.
too. Do you know one thing?
Just want to hug her.
I know. I know. My heart hurt. But do you know, the first thing I was thinking too, or the last thing I was thinking was, I was about to say to her, once you're out of this, it's never even going to impact you. Like, it's not going to be a big deal in your life.
Yeah.
But if she stays in it, it will be a big deal for a very long time. And then I was like, wait, that's not good. I don't know what advice I would be giving there.
It's so hard to give advice in these circumstances because everybody's different. We're a zero tolerance policy couple. Yeah. I mean, I don't care if there's a kiss. It's over. Mm-hmm. It's done. The divorce is there. It's apparent. It's present.
We've even talked about like acting. Like if I had to be in acting and kissing.
Oh, I wouldn't be able to. I would have to leave the room.
but that's the type. Like we've even gotten to depth of talking about it like that. So I think also having that conversation early, which we didn't get a chance to ask, that is one thing that with Ben made things different. Because I was a little bit of I was not great.
She was a little
in other relationships. She
was loose fit jeans.
Yeah. And then I met Mr. Black and White, and that was him. And he set it up very early. Sounds bad, the requirements of the relation, but like the
list of rules.
But I respected that because it was clear from the front, and I respected him, and I, for the first time, respected myself so that I wouldn't go and hurt somebody. And I had hurt a couple of people, and I had been, in this terrible wheel of it. And so I'm not blaming this guy as if he's a horrible human being, but he just might be a young guy that's doing the same thing I was doing. And,
true. And kind of to our last caller, like maybe he's getting to know himself. I think people really underappreciate the importance of upfront expectations. We always go into relationships assuming, well, don't do this and don't do that and have trust. But everyone is different. Like you have non-traditional relationships, and like a lot of people, especially young people, operate under this like, well, I didn't tell you because I didn't want you to be mad, right? Mm-hmm. And fine. It's just like an excuse. It's kind of BS. But if you are early in a relationship saying, hey, listen, this is what I'm about. This is what I expect from myself. This is what I want from my partner. If you don't want a part of that, then that's fine. But that it's very clear from the beginning. And it creates a lot less confusion. And kind of like you said, Ginger, like when you hear someone say that with conviction about their expectations for themselves in a relationship, that's attractive.
It is. And it was also like rules for me to follow. I was more mature by then, and I had gotten a lot of that.
Think about at 24 if I came to you and I said, this is what yeah, exactly. It would come off so intense and so overbearing.
Which it already did come off intense. And that was part of why, and he always talks about our breakups. And so part of why I broke up with him the first time was not only was I not prepared in myself because I was just going through a bunch of mental stuff, but I was also not sure I could stick to the rules. And so I needed to be really clear with him and be like, nope, I'm not ready for you and this quite yet. Right. I got to make sure that I don't want to go date some horrible human being for a while and then come back. And then once I really settled in and I realized, allow this person to love you, allow the black and white to work because it can and it should. And I want that too. And I was realistic about what I wanted. I wanted to be treated the same way that he wanted to be treated. And that's all it was. And then it was super easy after that. And I don't think you're one of very few that I haven't overlapped with. We'll call it that.
Overlapped.
I call it the old overlap.
I call it being a monkey, going from one vine to another,
That's the one.
Keep on. Yeah.
But being ready is a very valuable thing, I think. Mm-hmm. You have to be ready. No, the reason young people get married and they get divorced is because they're not ready. You have to be ready to do this and make this commitment. And
fall off the vines and do all the things, and have all those experiences like a young monkey had to fly off of a vine and fall. Okay, too many analogies.
I shouldn't say young.
But you're right. The only reason I was able to finally leave my first relationship of 7 years of breaking up 100 times was because I met someone else, right? I didn't have the maturity to just be like, this isn't right or healthy and I need to leave this situation. Like I needed to meet someone else. And like that happens all the time. And that does come from like just, having that courage to be alone and saying no to something isn't right for you. But that's easier said than done.
Being alone is terrifying for a lot of. I love.
He loved
being
it. This
alone.
is the other thing is he never had a girlfriend,
Nope.
and that's the weirdest thing to me. He's the opposite of what you and I are talking about.
It sounds like I'm like a eunuch.
I'm his first girlfriend.
No,
really,
but
though.
I think it goes against the grain of like social norms, right? Like, I don't know why that is the way it is, but like when I get questions like, I'm 22 and I've never had a boyfriend or girlfriend, am I weird? I'm like, no, you're a genius. Like you're, like, and like it's not wrong to have a boyfriend or girlfriend, but especially now with people settling down later in life, right? People just having different expectations than we had 15, 20 years ago, and certainly from our parents. And it's kind of like, well, unless you are really ready to get married, then why are you in a relationship? Are you just there to have a boyfriend and girlfriend? I don't know. So like sometimes you have to ask yourself, is it just nice to have, or is this going somewhere? And sometimes it's just the former.
And Ben was so strong with his conviction of knowing himself. He would wake up in a relationship, even when they lived together, which he did, and woke up and was like, this isn't right. And then he would just break up with them
I had to
that
break
day.
up with them that day. I had to find them and break up with. I had this feeling in my stomach. I couldn't go another day without breaking.
I would wait 3 years.
I needed closure.
I'm somewhere in between. I'm not as cutthroat as I am now, but I was before.
Yeah. It's neuroses. I think it's more than anything.
How's it going?
Hi, I'm Jacqueline. I'm 33.
Hi, Jacqueline, 33. How can we help?
So I am a flight attendant, and it's funny because I don't know if you can relate to this in any way because you've never talked about it on the podcast, but I absolutely hate talking about my job on online dating. It always becomes this 20 questions game, the same stupid questions over and over and over again. And if I don't list my profession, that's like the first thing that they ask me. So how do I get away with not talking about my job? It's all anyone ever wants to talk about.
What do you hate about it?
I think there's too many stereotypes associated with being a flight attendant, which were actually confirmed on your interview with Peter. He mentioned that one of the reasons that he lives at home is because he's gone all the time. And that's actually not true for me. So when people just automatically assume, oh, you're never home, or how do you make dating work, or what's your typical route, all these stupid questions. And it's like they all have to get through the same questions before we could actually start talking.
Gotcha. Well, hey, listen, I guess my response to that would be you're probably making it worse than it actually is. Listen, certainly I have lived a unique situation, and my experiences on TV are something I don't love talking about, especially on dates. But I also recognize that it's something that if I am interested in someone, I have to at some point be able to talk about it. And quite honestly, their ability to have a conversation with me about it is important in my ability to see if I can connect with them, because it is a big part of my life, and I need to know that they can have a discussion with it, a discussion about it. Same goes for you or anyone or whatever job they have. Part of the reason why, I think you're making a little bit too big of a deal about it is because, what do you do for a living is a very normal, first date kind of conversation starter. And the reality is a lot of people are they get anxious, they get nervous, they don't know what to talk about. What do you do for a living is right up there with how's the weather? And so, yes, you happen to have a profession that's everyone's thinks they know a lot about, and they might even have a lot of assumptions about what they are, and you've probably developed an annoyance over it, and you've developed this kind of irritation with having to explain the misconceptions that are at least specific to your life. Because again, every flight attendant's life isn't the same. Just because you're a pilot or a flight attendant, your situation might be different. You referenced, Pete, my interview with Peter, Peter's never home because it sounds like he's leveraged his life in a, profession as a pilot to travel, where you haven't. Like, it's like, I'll travel as a result of work, but when I'm not working, I enjoy being at home, whatever. So my guess is you're probably making it a little bit worse than it is. I think it's something you're always going to be open to. Quite honestly, if I was on a date, and I went on a date with a flight attendant, let's say we're on a date, and I was like, oh, so what do you do? And you got like guarded against that question, I would be like, why? What? Like, what? Why is she like?
It's the fact that they like won't stop. I can try to change the subject or say like, oh, 3 truths and a lie. Let's switch this over to something else. And then they always go back to it. And I'm like, there's so much more to me other than my job. Like it's obviously a big part of my identity, but it's not all of me.
I'm curious, like, what are these questions that you're getting?
Stupid questions like, Mile High Club. Have you ever dated a pilot? What's your typical route? And like, there is no typical route. It changes every single week. Or what do you do on your layovers? It's like the same questions from every person. It's not like people switch it up or just say like, oh, tell me a great story or something crazy that happened, where it's like an actual like storytelling conversation. It's all the same stupid questions.
Well, I do. And I don't know if this would help, but we all have different professions here. And I would say that I wasn't ever thinking that it was about my job, which is a meteorologist, which people automatically think weather girl, which is not, because I studied science. So it's different than what people think. So there's a lot of assumptions that people know and ask the same things. But I always found, I'd say the annoyance wasn't in what they were saying about just my job, but it was just every time you had to go on a first date, there are those repeat questions. Like, I find in my head, it was like the family stuff, the sibling stuff. So everybody's got like a tender spot of what kind of, I have to go through this again. But unfortunately, I think that's just part of the game. I think you have to go through it and you have to do it. And now it's funny because we've been married 6 years and I'm like, do you want to know anything else about me?
Well, that's. I think that's a novel point. First of all, are you immune to turbulence? I need to know. No, I'm kidding. No, but I think the good news is that these guys are asking questions.
Yeah.
It's a huge complaint about most women that I know that are single are, I went on a date. The guy didn't ask one question about me. All he did is talk about himself over and over again. So at least you're generating interest, and these people are interested in your life.
And if you go past second or third date, they'll get over all the questions. The questions will be done. Then you're past that point. What's too bad is that maybe it won't work after 6 and you got to start over again. But that's just, I think that really is every first date. I find it at work when I'm meeting new people, when I'm doing interviews and I'm interviewing somebody. I tend to still feel that first date feel where you're kind of saying those same things and repeating. I don't know. It's
small talk.
Yeah, it's small talk. Yeah. It's just the beginning. And otherwise, you said it really well. You said, well, that's not my identity. It's only a part of my identity. That's a very advanced thing to say. Most people can't even get to that point knowing that about themselves. So you're already ready for like this deeper heart connection. And maybe you'll find that in somebody that's also ready. But I think most people, as Nick was saying, are nervous. They're kind of at the shallower end, depending on where they are in their dating life.
You have a cool job. You have an interesting job. If you're doing data entry, you'd be like, oh, okay, great. What are you doing? Oh, okay.
Have you seen Office Space?
Exactly. And that's part of it too, is like, you're going to be on a date and you're going to say, oh, I'm a flight attendant. And immediately these guys like brains are letting up like, oh, great. Like easy 20 questions right off the bat. Yeah. Because a lot of times it's like, what do you do? And they say some like total, like, data entry, like, oh, so is that like fun?
Supply chain management.
One of my majors in college.
Of course.
But see, the problem is like, it's more the online stuff. Once I get to the in-person, like I can avoid it and kind of steer the conversation elsewhere, and it's not as big of a deal. But it's the messaging back and forth. Like we can't get past that, and then I don't even know if I want to meet them because that's all we've talked about. You know what I mean?
Well, how long are you talking with these guys on online dating? Like,
right. I would just meet them then. Well, not now, but
Yeah, set up a Zoom. I mean, that's a thing. Like, now's a great time to like, you just want to like do a Zoom date, and if it goes bad, just like hang up. It's like there's, but yeah, like how long are you really like? Maybe you're talking and communicating over text too long before you're like making the move.
We don't even get to text. It's just on the app. Like we cannot get
whatever.
that.
I mean, text on
And
the
then
app.
you stop writing, and then you just stop because you're like, okay, that was 19. I'm done.
I would see it as a game. I would see it as fun. I would make up answers. Have you been to Mile High Club? No, but I've been to the 2 Mile High Club, and just make up the most random answers you possibly can, and just make it a game.
Well, and sometimes I'll like answer like, okay, let me give you a quick lowdown. Can we talk about something else now? Like, hey, I saw a picture of this, or I saw this in your, whatever. And it's like, it just, I can't steer it away. It's so
why don't you if it's just like on the dating app, you can have some fun here. Like, when someone like, what do? You just be like, I'm a crime fighter. And they're like, oh, like a cop? No. Like, I'm more like vigilante. Like, make shit up that people clearly know that you're kidding. And then they're like, no, what do you do? Be like, yeah, I would rather like have that like a conversation in person about it. And like, that's intriguing. I mean, they're gonna end up finding out you're like a flight attendant, which is like, oh, okay. Well, like they're like, ooh, what does she do? Like, why is it so like that could be exciting? But like,
actually, a good strategy is to make up something so extraordinary so that flight attendant sounds so boring compared to it.
Like, I'm a lion tamer. I don't know. Like,
I'm just kidding. I'm a flight attendant. Let's order dinner.
Yeah. Like, I work as Santa Claus's assistant. I don't like it's. Just like when online dating, I think knowing you can take a joke or like say a joke or I think that's very important to like be sarcastic and in an obvious way that clearly that you're joking, and if they take it too literally, that's a red flag. But there is a part of that you're probably you've lost a little bit too much patience with it. I mean, listen, I don't love every time I go on a date to have to do the whole song and dance about me having 10 siblings. Do you really? You're lying. No, show me a picture. What are their names? Like, can you list their names? Like, you're lying. Why would I be lying about this? Like, I don't but I have to do it. And it's literally the same reaction every single time, but you know what?
What about parts of The Bachelor?
Yeah.
Like, what if people ask certain things about The Bachelor that just make you so irritated? How do you steer the conversation?
It just, to a certain degree, I have to be okay with if I'm interested in actually dating someone, that is a part of my life. You are a flight attendant, right? And so if you do end up liking a guy and you actually start a relationship with someone, they need to learn about you. Right? You're going to have to talk about what you do. And I have to recognize that, like, and it all depends on, for me, it's so unique and there's things I have to consider. But at the end of the day, if I like someone, I have to be open to talking about it, because the truth is I want someone to be able to relate to me. I want someone to share my perspective on the show. So if they come from a part of life that they have a hard time relating to my experiences, I have to be open to talk about it. And how they approach that and the questions they ask and how they respond to my answers is for me a big indication of our compatibility. So like, to be closed off it's kind of weird, to be honest. And like, I get where you're coming from, but like, again, it's a normal conversation starter. It's low hanging fruit. It's first date stuff. They're just looking for things to say. I think as a society, we've become worse at talking. We've become worse at communicating. We're not good at asking questions. And so part of it is just like, they don't know what else to ask. But like, a lot of it is nerves. And I think you being closed off makes it even more challenging. Be like, well, why won't she just answer this question?
But there comes a point where I'm like, okay, like, can we now get to know each other a little bit?
Can you ask?
I don't mind answering some.
Can you divert?
She does, and then they come back to it.
Oh, they always come back to it? Oh, wow.
I think in general, like, messaging on a dating app is not a place to get to know someone. Messaging on a dating app,
take your cues. Like, your face would show you that. Don't ask another question about, like, you may have that in there.
But why? Like, so, like, I guess my question to you is like, try to get to the face to face. I mean, now we're living in a time, like, you can still do FaceTime dates and Zoom dates. Zoom dates may be better because you don't have to give your number if you don't want them to have their number. But like, get to it quicker. Like, stop messaging with someone you've never met in person. They have no idea about inflection on text messaging. Like their tone. A lot of assumptions are made via text messages with someone you have never met. So like, I don't get why people spend a lot of time messaging with people they've never met before they meet up, whether it's for a coffee or a drink, obviously, or like right now for like a FaceTime or a Zoom date. Like, get to it quicker so that you can have like, it's hard to ask, deep questions over text because like you don't know how that person's going to take it, So yeah, you're maybe waiting too long to get there. And I think that's a problem with dating apps in general is like I've heard this from a lot of people, both parties are like too, like they're too pokey on like getting to making the move of like, do you want to like get together? But again, now's like arguably a great time to meet new people because like when you're on a dating app, I get it, right? It's like, oh, do I want to go out and meet this person at a restaurant and like sit down for like an awkward drink and kind of, I don't know, or like if I'm in LA, it's kind of like, well, do I want to drive across town? Now it's like as easy as like popping on a Zoom date and like talking for 15, 20 minutes and popping off. Like, what a great time to rapid fire, just kind of get to know someone.
On my days off, like if I am gone for a couple of days and I come home, like I don't want to waste my time with someone that I'm not totally sure I want to spend time with. So you're right. It is a good opportunity right now.
Give each other a little grace. I just don't want you missing out on a great guy because he asked too many questions about your job. That would be terrible. That'd be a tragedy. Yes. So I just, a little grace on both ends, I think would be valuable.
I agree with Ben. Listen, the best conversationalist is going to ask you about your job, and there's always an awkwardness and like you might not be realizing it, but I'm certain that as a result of this being a thing in your head, like you probably come across even on text as a little more guarded. And then when someone feels like you're like not giving them anything, they actually just kind of bury themselves and ask more of the same. Like it becomes this like, oh, well, like what else should, and then there's like this awkwardness and.
Also, like, can I ask one last question that is seriously important when it comes to being a flight attendant?
Oh, God, I knew it.
Which airline? Because, and I know that's the one.
She's an airline snob.
I am, but that's the only, and I've told Nick knows this, Ben knows this, but it's important,
I will
and
say,
He's not the same as Peter.
I've flown a lot more Delta recently.
Well, that's too bad.
Because of Ginger.
Yes.
It's pretty special. It's a pretty special airline.
It is. But anyway, I mean, they may have like, that might be part of them, like that would have been my play on it. If I was going on a date with you, I'd be like, oh, immediately I need to know. And I need to talk crap about other airlines.
She's the weirdest airline. You're talking to like an airline nerd. Like she was so close to Diamond that she was actually considering like flying to Mississippi just to obtain Diamond status.
People do that.
It's crazy. Or like pay the money just to get. So she's an airline snob.
I flew Southwest once, and Ginger reached out to me out of nowhere, just shaming me. And I'm just like, it made sense. Like, I don't like. Also, they do songs. It has its place, is all I'm saying.
Anyway, I think look at it that way. It could be humorous. It could be fun. There might be something when you're in person, because it would come up much different if I just asked what airline. Than me being able to inflect. So there's an example.
Although you would say what airline, and then she would just hang up on you immediately.
Yeah. Click. I'm over this. Yeah. But yeah, I think the big takeaway here is like you're gonna have to have a little bit of patience, especially early on. Get to the conversation, or leave the messaging via dating app as quick as possible, and either get to the date or get to a Zoom or whatever. And yeah, have a little grace and patience with someone who's just trying to figure out, like what questions to ask. Because dating is hard and people get nervous and it gets redundant. It just does. And I get it. But, we all have those frustrations. But you have to power through. You have to be easy to get to know. That's important in dating.
I hear you. Makes sense.
All right. Well, thanks for calling again.
Thank you.
All right. Take care.
Bye. People are also sweet. They're also
they
nice.
are so nice.
They're also they deserve happiness.
But yeah, I mean that's the thing. It's just like literally identical reactions from every single person I've
Yep.
ever gone on a date who finds out I have 10 siblings. It's like there's this universal reaction that you must have, you know, and it is what
All
it is.
from your mom, from the same way, you know, like
from the
that.
same, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And you know what? Like, does it get redundant and irritating? Sure, but you know what? You know what I also know? It's also like a great conversation starter. It like loosens people up. It makes it fun and interesting and exciting, and you know, like, and I've learned to embrace that because it helps like kind of loosen up the conversation. And like sometimes you need to ask the boring, redundant questions to find the interesting kind of path of a question.
I think
Because
that's
like
a great point.
Yeah.
Because we did that. Our first, like, we walked through Central Park. That was like our first, not at all date. It's just after we met, but it was a half hour of, you know, talking. And within that conversation, we both got through the job stuff fast. And then we were down to like, I had a weird time in my life where I was very lonely and watched all of John Cusack's movies. And Ben,
great,
like,
great.
Yeah. But it got to that point, our conversation within the park. So that's exactly right, is that even within that time, we were able to cover so much ground in person.
You want to get to that place where you're like, how did we start talking about this? You're like, oh yeah, that like lame topic, you know, but it like, it's got to start somewhere, you know? So.
And guys are inquisitive. They're asking questions, which is
good.
Which is so rare, I find. So she's one step ahead of a lot of people already. So.
Yeah.
Just comes with territory.
It's not a curse, it's a blessing.
It is, and it's a cool job. She has a cool job. It's just the way it is.
Yeah,
but like you said, when meet people, they make dating so complicated now. We were talking about this on my show that you can now like find out on a dating site if the other person believes that climate change exists.
It's so weird.
And it's like, oh my God, just go out on a date with somebody. What is all these like these specifics? Oh, this is blondesonly.com or I love motorcycles.com. Like just go on a date. You're supposed to have differences. You're supposed to
You're absolutely right. Yeah. We've developed too many non-negotiables in for ourselves and our dating lives. And like they certainly have some, but you know, part of the beauty of like, and I'm assuming you guys would know this, is like there's got to be beliefs that you guys had that have changed as a result of like learning the different perspective of your partner.
Or and they maintain, they'd say different.
Or they maintain, and it's like the compromise at different times. And that's something that you have to be willing or ready. And that's,
like she believes in
this
human
is going to be
sacrifice.
fake, whatever.
She lives in human sacrifice every Sunday night.
The hardest thing that I'm still not good at is Ben is so full of S in most of these cases that he goes and tells people stories like if people don't recognize me right away or whatever, he will mess with them. And I am so uncomfortable still to this day. It's like my least favorite thing. And he's like, you know, I hate that, Ginger.
She'll have to leave the room if I'm I can't lie. I'm incapable
or
of
he'll
lying.
say like he was a wide receiver for the Lions. Like he'll just make up
like
this whole story.
I was
and I'm
in
like,
high school and I got a full ride to Duke for basketball and I played a little professional, but I wanted to be in radio because it pays so much better. So that's what it was. And she'll just leave the room.
I'm getting better, but
You're not getting better. You're terrible at it. No, not good.
Yeah.
That's why I find that surprising that like you're not good at that, Ginger.
I know.
I feel like it's great to have like Ben obviously has a great sense of humor, and like it would be worse if he was awkward
so serious or so.
Yeah, so serious about it all.
But it's that people believe him so much that's the thing. Is if it's an obvious and like somebody's lying and right away people are like, oh, that's funny. It's that it goes on for 10 minutes and
I'll just escalate it to the point of I'll go into space. Like he
still gets his mom. His mom thought Emeril Lagasse was going to do our wedding food for like 3 days because he was so convincing and like that type of thing. I can't.
I'll joke, but I can only do it if I know I'm telling the person that I'm joking. I can't lie. I am incapable of lying. I can only do it if I know for a fact that I will be telling this person I'm just kidding.
Sure. But after you've convinced them.
Right. Of course. After I make a fool of them, of course.
Like right before they're like, I got to tell everyone.
No,
I'm just kidding.
I'm just kidding. I'm just making a joke.
How's it going?
It's good. How are you?
Great. What's your name?
I'm Caitlin. I'm 34 in Denver. About to turn 35 in a couple weeks. So really living it up until that happens. So I wrote you because I downloaded a dating app in February. I hate dating apps. I'm not much of a dater, but I ended up meeting a guy off of it in early March and really, really liked him. We went on 2 dates. There is no intimacy on the date, so I didn't kiss and we didn't hook up. And then I left for a ski trip in Aspen. Then a huge outbreak of COVID happened in Aspen, and I had to self-quarantine. And then in Denver, about a week after that, they did a stay-at-home order. So we're stay-at-home, not shelter-in-place. And I haven't been able to see him since I really wanted to. But we've been texting a little bit back and forth, maybe 1 to 4 times a week. I usually let him initiate the text because I don't want to come off like too eager. So some of my questions for you is, how do I maintain his interest while this is all going on and there's no real end date with when people can go back into the community again? How do I make sure I'm not being too passive or aggressive? And then also the conversation, I mean, it's been 4 weeks of talking to him over text, but the conversation is very like light, like it's a lot of jokes and memes and like funny things. And I'm curious how to take it and make it, you know, a little more serious and try to get to know him better without coming on too strong.
Yeah, these are great questions. I think if I were doing like a questions with Nick on my Instagram version of this, I would, my immediate question is you're thinking too much about being too aggressive. You're over. I mean, I'm just such a big believer, and people need to stop worrying about that. I mean, people know when they're being too aggressive. Like, and if you're usually it's the people who are very self-conscious about coming across too aggressive, or the ones who are way too passive. You have that kind of self-awareness about you. And as a result, I mean, the reality is like the right guy is not going to see that as aggressive. I mean, it's normal in a dating situation to talk about serious things. Like, it's great that he seems playful and that you both like share a similar sense of humor. And like, yes, memes are fun to like respond to in texts. And, I always hear from like women about like guys being bad texters, and I would put myself in that situation. It's like, how much can you really communicate? Like, texting is really kind of for that kind of quick responses and having a sense of humor. But you're probably overthinking that a little bit. And kind of one of those things where like, if you try to drive the conversation down to a more like get to know you serious path, and he responds in a kind of a dismissive way, then that would be a very good thing to find out now, whether like either A, how interested is he getting to know you, or B, does he have the emotional maturity to ever have these conversations at all? Some guys don't, maybe he's just, you can certainly learn pretty quickly if a guy, a lot of people are like, oh, is he just trying to hook up with me? Well, if he's uninterested in having like deeper conversations and he's just like, I'd rather send a meme, then that might be a sign that he's like not all that interested in doing that.
Okay.
Why don't you guys talk on the phone? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh yeah, no, we haven't talked on the phone yet. I'm not a big phone person. I would do it if someone suggested it, but it's not something like I would initiate. But I know that is an option. We're both quarantined alone. So like I've been alone for 4 weeks at this point. He's about at 3. So like I haven't had any human interaction outside of like my neighbors.
What about like FaceTime or like Zoom or?
Yeah, I could do that. I don't know how to maybe ask someone, because I guess my biggest issue is that like 2 dates isn't like enough to like base something off of. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but you're not.
I don't think you even have to ask. I think if you just, this might sound really old school of me, but if you just called or just FaceTimed, he might pick up. Yeah. And then I think that would also be very telling. That would just be like, what's the worst thing that happens with that? He picks up and you have the best conversation ever? I don't know. You could. Yeah.
Totally.
I hate this situation because I feel for you. I know what you're going through, because There is a game. Unfortunately, it sucks, but there is a game that is played where if you don't want to be, like you said, you don't want to be too passive, you don't want to be too aggressive. There's like a very slight dance that you have to perform in order not to drive the person away, but still seem scintillating to them. And it sucks because you're 34. We're at an age where it's like, just get to the point. Do you want to be with me or not? Are we going in the direction? It doesn't sound like he's a hookup kind of guy because he would have made the move on the first date and he didn't. And I'm not a hookup kind of guy, and I would make a first move on a first date. So that's good to know.
Like
Which is
he
great.
usually initiates. Yeah.
Yeah.
That is fantastic. That is the first inclination that this is actually very good in your favor, because guys wouldn't. And I know tons of women that are single that are chasing down guys and they say, he didn't text me back. Oh my God, he waited a day. He waited 2 days, and they're driving themselves absolutely mad. So at least he's initiating, which is great. But I think this right here, what we're doing is so. Back in the day when you used to call somebody you liked and you used to get a zit on your chin because the phone was resting there for so long, that's how you get to know somebody. You can't get to know somebody over text. You can't understand what they're saying, what their context is.
Yeah.
Call them on the phone and hear their voice and talk for an hour or 2 or 5 seconds and be like, this was a total waste. Okay, great. Let's move on now. But
yeah,
you're quarantined, so you got to talk.
I totally agree. And like go ahead.
I was going to ask if you guys have any advice on like questions I could ask him to sort of like dig a little deeper, or how I could maybe initiate like the phone call other than just,
I guess what do you want to know about him?
Getting more into like, stories about our past and like maybe how I can relate to certain things, just like quirky little things, other than like how many sisters do you have? Like we had that initial conversation, but it's like getting a little deeper. And I tried to like text him a story.
I want to talk. Do you want to talk on the phone?
Oh,
Boom.
see, I think you just call. I think you just call, and then the conversation will develop. We actually were just talking about this, but I think that if it's natural and if it fits and if he's ready for that conversation, or he'll call you back when he is ready, then you just go for it. And then if it becomes one of those great 3-hour conversations, that's outstanding. And if it doesn't, then that's telling,
I totally agree. And I think, FaceTime, I think is probably a little bit better if you can see their face. And like, I think, and it does how you frame it. Like, it's so weird that sometimes, like, if you were to call them up and then be like, all right, well, here, I have a list of questions I want to ask you. And like, all of a sudden it becomes like, what, like, why, But like, just get on the phone and start talking. And maybe like you're sitting on a couch and you're both watching a movie and you're like, ooh, what are you watching? You kind of watch a movie together and it like, you like have commentary, you just keep it real light. And then that should like evolve into like questions, like it should go down a path where you like ask a question and they, do they give you like a 1 or 2 word response, or do they talk a little bit, and it just, but I think for you seem so self-conscious about like asking the right questions in a way that he will respond in a positive way. I think you're just in your head a little bit about it. And so it's going to seem more tense. And I'm a big believer, like, I agree that there is a game that people play, but you guys did go on 2 dates already in person. You've been texting for a period of time. This is like, you're well past, like, this is not like you met on a dating app and text a few times and the next question out of your, that you want to ask on the date is like, his 5-year plan, like there's been some communication. Like at some point you do have to like have these conversations to show that there is something worth continue to talk about.
I feel like it's Groundhog's Day, but on the first date. So it's just not getting past that, barrier. But I'd like it to be, because eventually if I do see him in 6 to 8 weeks, like I'd like it to be like more established, not like defined, but just, be able to see him. And
cool.
I mean, did you watch Love at First Sight? And I'm not trying to relate this, but you are able, without being in person, if it is a call or a wall or whatever it is, you are able to develop really outstanding connection without having that in person. So that was a great, both entertaining and wonderful way for us to prepare for something like this, because I think that tells you a lot.
Are you able to go on walks in Denver?
Yeah, so we can go on walks. He actually lives about 5 minutes away from me, and I have a dog, so I take my dog out frequently. I'm right in between two big parks.
Why don't you guys set up like a kind of cute
6 foot
quarantine date or a 6 foot date? Like,
With a
be
cup
kind
and
of
a
fun.
string attached to
Yeah,
it.
like you can still, practice safe social distancing and be socially responsible and like still be in proximity together. Like it kind of has a cute element to it. I've seen, I have friends who have friends, and people have shared some stories on social media of ways people are kind of circumventing the times that we're in to still like show their sincerity and advance relationships that they're excited about. And I think you guys can do that. But right now you're sitting in limbo, and maybe he's doing the same thing, kind of waiting for one person to make the move. And I think it sounds like you guys have had enough of conversations where if he responds in a way that makes you feel like you're being too much, then that just shows that maybe he's just not.
He's not ready.
He's not ready, and it won't be. He won't. And by not ready, I mean like this isn't it for him. He either lacks the maturity. Yeah.
I would set up a face. Say we're going out Friday night on a FaceTime date. You got to get dressed up, and you're gonna have dinner. He's gonna have dinner. You're both gonna have wine, and you have a FaceTime date where you actually have a date, like you're sitting across the table with somebody, but you do it in a creative way.
And this is what, this type of, I don't want to call it aggression. It's not called aggression, but this type of creativity was exactly what he did on our real dates. And it was a lot at first, but I have to say that once it was there and in front of me, and maybe if you're presenting it, or, he'll feel open to presenting it or being ready for that, because it's not the same right now, but I think that you have to throw it out there.
Yeah.
Do
Go
it.
crazy. It's a weird time. I think embrace that.
Yeah, the difference between what seems aggressive or assertive, like, just comes down to compatibility and interest, and like you have to like take risks once in a while.
Yeah.
To find, and at the risk of being rejected, which is not a reflection of you. Like if you get rejected, it just means it wasn't the right situation. But you have to put yourself out there. I know it's cliche because the right person will find it charming and interesting and be like. And he or she will like tell their friends, like, one girl can be like, oh, some guy did this, like, oh God, it was kind of weird and aggressive. And then the same girl with a different guy would tell this story to her friends, and all her friends would be like, oh my God, I wish a guy would do that for me. Like it just all comes down to like compatibility and interest. But like,
as long as you don't get down on yourself, because everything you're doing is right. As long as you don't get down on yourself, if you do reach out and he says, I heard ghost. What do they say?
Ghost.
The ghost.
Kids say ghost. Yeah.
Kids say ghost. Yeah. Yeah. If he bounces or leaves or whatever it is, as long as you don't say to yourself, God, I'm such an idiot. Why did I reach out? I'm so stupid. Don't do that. You're not doing anything wrong. You're doing everything right.
Yeah. I mean, this is the optimal time to ghost somebody if you were to.
It really is.
From home.
Yeah. Right.
But it sounds like you have a lot of just hesitation and fears about like doing it wrong. And to Ben's point, at this point, it's just you need to find out how compatible you guys are, and you're not doing anything wrong. And if it doesn't work out, it's not a time to, kick yourself and like reassess or react. Like, no, it just wasn't there, and that is okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's great. Great advice.
Yeah,
you're with the wine date.
I don't think you're ever going to have to worry about being too assertive. No. You seem so worried about it. Like those people aren't the people who are being weird and creepy and assertive. It's the people who have like just no self-awareness and never have asked that question to themselves that are.
Okay. Great. Well, thank you so much.
All right. Well, take care. You're going to be great.
Nice haircut, too.
No, thank you very much. All right.
Have a good afternoon.
You too. Bye-bye. Well, Ginger and Ben, I really appreciate you taking the time. This has been a ton of fun. I hope you guys enjoyed listening, but always great to have a different perspective, and obviously coming from a fun and successful married couple, it's been a lot of fun, and I appreciate you guys joining.
Thank you.
Thanks
for having us. Yeah, we should do this more often.
Hey, you guys are welcome anytime. Where can people find you on social or in life?
I'm at Ginger_Zee at most things.
I'm Ben Aaron TV on Instagram. I don't know how to tweet.
He's on Pix 11 News in New York if you live there.
Oh yeah, I'm on at 9 a.m. on Pixel on 11.
And I'm on Good Morning America. And you can also check out
you have a book coming out?
Yes, April 21st, a third in a trilogy of for kids 8 to 12, and it's science, so it's all STEM. That's my big thing. I'm a scientist. That
you're gonna send me. You're gonna send me a copy so I can promote it. All right.
Yeah, I'll get the whole trilogy out there to you. You'll be reading about helicity.
Yep.
Can people pre-order that right now?
Yeah, they can pre-order right now, and it's available. Isn't it next week? I have to get my life. I have to get my life together.
Get your life together.
Well, be sure to check that out. Obviously, on Amazon you can pre-order or wherever you buy books. Awesome. Well, thanks so much for joining, guys. I really appreciate it. And as always, guys, thanks for listening. And don't forget to tune in tomorrow, or tonight rather, for another Listen to Your Heart recap. Thanks for listening. See you tomorrow.